Welcome to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. I'm your host, Jeannie Hall, and I'm a creative inspiration coach who helps writers reignite their creative sparks. This podcast is here to help you knock down any barriers that stand between you and your dreams. You can do it. Join me. Hello, and welcome to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. This is podcast number 30. I can't believe it. That's quite a few podcasts. This one is entitled, Be Kind, Especially to Yourself. So most of us are taught from a young age to be kind. Most of us are raised with parents who want us to be good people, and they want us to treat others fairly. And so they teach us from the time we're very small, most of us at least, are taught to be kind. So an example of being kind might be we're taught not to stare at someone who may look a little different, whether it's from a disability or an injury, or maybe they're really overweight or whatever it might be. We're taught to not go up to them and say something that would be considered rude. So like most of you guys, anybody who has small children can probably tell you, who has been around small children, can tell you they don't have a filter until you give them one. So it's one of those things where they might go up to someone and say something that would be embarrassing. So they might go up to a pregnant lady, for example, and say, "Why are you so fat?" or something like that. So we always try and train our children when they're small, and we were trained when we were small to, oh, no, don't say that. Be nice, be kind. So we're taught that it's important to temper our words with consideration rather than just blurting something out like what I just said. Even if that something might be true, maybe it's an obese person that, is very, very obese. And the thing we want to do, we want to teach our kids and anybody growing up from a young age to be kind to other people no matter what their situation. We don't know what their situation is. Maybe they're obese for any number of reasons, and we don't know what those reasons are. And it's not our place to judge, and it's not our place to be rude to someone and call them out on something that, even if they can control it, it's not our place to judge them on that or to point something out that might hurt their feelings or be just mean. So we always try and be kind. And we're taught to avoid being rude, to be polite. I was a teacher for 5 years, and even though the students I taught were anywhere from the ages of 11 to 14, and so most of them had already had that kind of training when they were little, not to be rude, it was something you're constantly reinforcing, whether you're a parent or a teacher, someone that works with or is around kids. Basically, that's something that's really important. And we also try and instill in our children and in ourselves to speak kind words to anyone we meet. We don't want to be rude to someone. We want to start off on the right foot and assume the best about them. And I know I definitely was taught this way. I was a little girl raised in the South, United States. So there, girls especially, and particularly, are raised to be sweet and kind and gentle. And so I'm not going to go into how girls are raised in the southern United States, and I'm not going to go into how girls are raised differently than boys in general. That's not really the topic I want to discuss today. But I am going to talk about how being kind is so helpful in your life, and it's actually really essential to your spiritual journey. So when we start learning to see other people that we interact with, not as that jerk who was rude to me, or not as that woman who is so mean, but as a spiritual being in human form, our entire perspective changes. When you can learn to look out on the masses of humanity and see them as they really are, which is basically all of them are spiritual beings in human form. And many, many, many of them do not realize this. But if you look at them from that perspective and you look at their actions and behaviors with that lens, it really helps you to be a kinder person because you realize we are all the same underneath the skin. We're all dealing with different issues. We're all trying to make it in this world, to be happy in this world, to find love in this world. And showing that compassion is an important part of that. And if you've been listening to this podcast any time at all, chances are you already know who you are and you already know what you are. You understand the truth about your existence on this planet. You realize you are a beautiful and eternal spiritual being inhabiting a human body, that you have come here to this planet to learn and to gain greater understanding and to help others and yourself in some way. And people who do not know this information are at a distinct disadvantage. They don't know the truth. So when they encounter any negativity in their life, when anything goes wrong, they're far more likely to react to it in a negative or even violent manner. So if someone bumps into you, let's say it's a person that doesn't realize who they really are. They don't have that perspective. They haven't worked on themselves. They don't know they're spiritual beings. Maybe they don't even believe in any kind of other thing that they can't see with their own eyes. And so if they bump into somebody or somebody bumps into them, let's say somebody bumps into them, maybe they push them back, or maybe they get in their face and yell at them with whoever collided with them. And the thing is, that kind of reaction tends to escalate in really crazy ways and really quickly. And especially if we don't know how to keep our reactions and emotions in check. And not that there's anything wrong with an emotion. You can be angry, you can be furious, you can even be in a rage. The problem comes not from the emotion itself, but from the reaction we have from that emotion. So if you get super uber pissed off because something happened and you react in a violent way, like someone, let's say, trips and falls and runs into you physically and knocks you back, if your reaction is to push them down, obviously either you could hurt them or it could turn into a fight or any other number of things. What if that person is elderly? If you push someone elderly down, you're probably going to hurt them really severely. They just can't take that physically. So there's a lot of, and of course we don't want to be that kind of person. None of us want to be those kind of people. We don't want to be in a place where our anger gets so out of control that we react in this manner that's so dangerous and so violent. Or even if it's just being hateful. Some people aren't violent. Most people are not violent. But a lot of us will react with screaming at someone or saying something nasty or flipping someone off or whatever. And it's so important for us to remember to be kind and to be tolerant. And when I say be tolerant, I don't mean tolerate rudeness or disrespectful or especially not violent behavior. Never am I advocating that. But what I am saying is to be patient with people who are rude, especially this time of year. The stores are all super full. And me personally, I'm an introvert. I'm not a fan of crowds at all. In fact, I actively avoid them. So if you're a writer, you're very possibly you're the same way. Or even if you're not a writer, there's a lot of us out there that are introverts. We do not enjoy being in the hustle and bustle of a bunch of people trying to do stuff in a hurry. So the best thing to do is either to avoid that or to just go into it being patient and kind and knowing that something might happen, but I'm not going to react in a negative way if it does. Now, I'm not talking about if someone is being violent. Of course, you want to get away from them immediately, but you don't want to tolerate that. But when I say tolerate, I don't mean going crazy on them. I don't mean just putting up with something and letting yourself get hit or anything like that. Just being kind and patient in general and behaving in a way that shows that you know who you really are and that you're not just some angry person in a human body running around yelling at people. We are so much more than that. So it's important to distance ourselves sometimes from a situation that might occur that might be negative or might make us angry. So just remember, those people who aren't aware of what and who they really are, they tend to be lost a lot of the time. They're kind of wandering around through this life with a bunch of things, a bunch of negative belief systems that do not serve them and serve to make them unhappy and miserable and angry people. So if you run into someone like that, you run into someone who's miserable and they don't know why, again, that's where kindness and compassion and patience comes into play. It's important to forgive these people if they do something rude. And it's not for them that you're forgiving them. It's for yourself. And that's always the case when you forgive someone. Forgiving others, even if that means distancing yourself from them or even never seeing them again. Let's say if someone you know and you decide to forgive them, but let's say you decide that you're never going to see them again. That is part of forgiveness. That is actually fine. That is okay. Sometimes that's necessary if something that they did was so painful to you that seeing them causes you pain, emotional distress, then you need to do what is best for you. But in general, and that is part of being kind too, forgiveness, whether that is someone in that extreme situation that you're never going to see again, or whether it's just learning to be more patient and compassionate with someone that maybe irritates the crap out of you or annoys you. Again, this is not even for them as much as it is for yourself. Because sometimes we get really wrapped up this time of year in the wrapping of the gifts, literally, and in the running around and getting things ready and decorating and extra activities and parties and got to get a gift for this person and that person. And, oh, crap, they got me something. I got to get them something back. And it gets to be overwhelming and it gets to be stressful. And one of the best things you can do in that situation is to remember, one, who you are, that you are not some crazy human running around like a busy bee. You are a spiritual being that is eternal. You don't have to run around and be crazy, right? It's a choice. So you can choose what would be the best interest for you and your time. What would serve you the most this holiday season? So we tend to think about all the stuff we have to do this time of year. And maybe you feel like, no, Jeannie, I have to do all this stuff. Christmas is at my house this year and I have to run around and da-da-da-da. Okay, well, maybe it is. That's fine. That's cool. Okay? But there are things you can do that keep you from stressing out in that situation. So instead of focusing on the heavier traffic, because there's a lot of the time there's going to be heavier traffic because a lot of people are traveling, a lot of people are out and about this time of year that are not out and about other times because they feel like they have to go shopping. Stores get much more traffic from people who are not their usual customer base this time of year because this is the one time a year people go and shop for someone else. So there's a lot more people out and about, especially in shopping centers and malls, and there's a lot of traffic on the roads because of this. There may be a lot more like foot traffic as well that we have to watch out for in the parking lots and things. So we have kids. If you have kids and you're a parent, you'll have kids home from school. So that means less time that you get to be independent and do stuff alone and on your own time. And of course, that's a pretty negative way to look at things. Oh, I got to worry about traffic. Oh, I got to worry about pedestrians in the parking lot. Oh, I got to worry about my kids being underfoot. Of course, that's not the best way to look at it. So how can we focus differently and make that a better situation? How about seeing the stuff that you need to do as a fun adventure instead? Get into the spirit of things, right? It's Christmas, or it's Hanukkah, or it's Kwanzaa, or it's whatever holiday you like to celebrate this time of year. But whatever time of year, whatever holiday it is that you're celebrating, you can choose to have fun with it and enjoy it instead of letting it stress you out. So recently at work, we had a ugly/crazy Christmas sweater contest. And all of us took the time to dress up and be silly, and we took pictures, and it was a lot of fun. It lightened up the day so much because, as many of you already know, I'm a retail manager in a retail environment during the holidays, which means it's basically insanity from the time you arrive until the time you go home. And it's a lot more people stepping on your nerves and people in the way, and you can't get where you're trying to walk, even in the aisles, and just more people means sometimes more stress. But that day where we dressed up with the silly Christmas sweaters and took pictures and goofed off, it was the whole atmosphere of the store I was working in changed. And it was so much lighter and so much more fun and so much more festive. We were just being silly with hats and goofy, ears on little headbands and sweaters that, we had one lady that had a sweater that had a whole hearth with stockings going down her arms. I mean, it was awesome. It was wonderful. And because we started out the day with that wonderful experience, the whole rest of the day, it was easier to smile. It was easier to be patient. It was easier to wait on customer after customer after customer after customer with a smile on our faces because we'd made it light to begin with, right? So a lot of it is how you look at things and the perspective you take. So it was just a joy to do that. And you can choose to make your life more joyful and more fun anytime you want. So if you know, like it's December and traffic's going to be crazy right now, make sure you leave a little earlier than you normally would. Just make sure you get out of the house those extra few minutes that you need so that you're not stressed later on. Have something while you're in your car, have something fun to listen to, silly Christmas carols or fun stuff, or maybe just peaceful, calming stuff. Maybe you want to listen to songbirds or the sea waves, the ocean waves, or soft music, whatever it is that helps to soothe you and keep you peaceful and happy. Me personally, since I create podcasts, I also listen almost nonstop to personal development podcasts and things like that. So it's amazing how much listening to like a self-growth type of podcast instead of banging music, or nothing wrong with that if that's your thing, or news or something like that, it keeps me being calm, because as I'm learning more and more and more about myself and about life coaching and about who I want to be as a person and how to improve, it's so amazing how peaceful and calm that makes me, because it's like a constant reminder of, Jeannie, you are an eternal spiritual being. You just are. And it just puts everything in perspective. So if someone honks at me, I can just smile and go on my way. It doesn't matter, right? They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. And I'm in my car and they're in theirs. And it's easy to honk at someone, because a lot of the time I think people don't think of there being any repercussion to that. I think that's why sometimes we are not as kind when we're behind the wheel of a vehicle as we would be if we were walking down a sidewalk or in a mall or whatever. If you can make eye contact and smile at someone in that situation, whereas when we're behind the wheel, we're behind all this windshield glass, and maybe we're high up or whatever in the vehicle we're driving, and it's like we were distanced from each other, and it's easier to feel like we can be rude. It's almost like there's that car's in my way. like there's not another person or people in that car, when of course there are, So it's just important to remember that, and remember to have that emotional maturity and be an adult and to be kind at all times. So let's say you are having a lot of activities and you've got a lot going on at home right now, and maybe you have kids getting underfoot. Plan some activities that include them. Specifically, make the time. If that means you can't help out as somewhere that you normally help out or whatever, be willing to let something like that go so you can spend the time with your kids and doing that fun activity. Because the memories that we create around this time of year, a lot of the time that is going to be your kids' favorite memories later on. And it may be your favorite memories too, looking back at it when your kids are out of the house and grown. You can look back at that time and go, oh, remember when we played that game together and we baked the cookies and you guys decorated the gingerbread house, or whatever it was, whatever fun activity it is. We decorated the tree together. We made new stockings, or whatever the activity is. It can be very simple. We baked cookies together. But taking that time to do that, like I grew up where my dad makes homemade donuts, and he's done that with us and his grandkids, and it's just such a treasured memory. It's a precious, precious thing. So take pictures and stuff I have pictures of the different kids creating this wonderful thing with their dad and their their grandpa and stuff. So it's just it can be a really precious memory when you remember to take the time to create it. So take some time and create those memories this year. If you're someone without kids underfoot, maybe you're feeling lonely or upset, maybe you just went through a breakup or a loss of some kind, try getting more involved. And I know, look, I'm an introvert, I get it. It's hard to put yourself out there and take a risk on being more of a joiner and joining something, whether it's an activity or a group or a club or a church or whatever it might be. But there are literally thousands of ways to join groups and be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and to help other people too this time of year. There's just so many ways to do that, and it will make you feel so happy and enriched to give of your time like that. So get involved with the activities that are in your community, and if that's not something you're looking for, maybe you need a support system right now instead. Sometimes you can divert your attention to something like volunteering and it totally makes you feel better, and that's all you needed. But maybe you're really struggling to cope this time of year. And if that's you, that's okay. Go seek out the support system that you need. Okay? The internet is a beautiful, wonderful thing. You can just type in whatever it is you're looking for. So if you're needing grief counseling, find out where the most local place is that you can go to get that for free. There's tons and tons and tons of resources on the internet. Please get help if that's what you need. Okay, seek those out. Because the most important person that you need to be kind to is yourself. Always. Spend some time, some alone time if necessary, even if it's only 10 minutes a day, doing something to center yourself and to remind yourself that you're a magnificent spiritual being. You can listen to soothing sounds or music. 10 minutes, that's what I'm talking about, 10 minutes. Or go sit in the sunshine, 10 minutes. Go walk somewhere beautiful for 10 minutes. Go do something crafty, right? Go shopping just for yourself. Soak in a tub with some bath salts or a bubble bath, have a bubble bath, or both. Take a long, hot shower. Maybe read for a little while, if that's your thing. Maybe drive around looking at Christmas lights. Do something for yourself every day. And I recommend doing it right at the very beginning of your day, if possible. Taking that time to center yourself, even if it's only sitting quietly and telling yourself that you love yourself. And yes, I realize that's hokey. I don't care. Try it. It can change your life. I know it sure changed mine. So take the time to center yourself and to be kind to yourself. Because this is the season of love and peace and perpetual hope, of joy and prosperity, and of giving. So give to yourself and be kind to yourself. It is a gift, giving kindness. And of course, it's wonderful to give it to anyone and everyone you can, but especially make sure you give that gift to yourself. Allow yourself to enjoy feeling peaceful and joyful and optimistic and full of hope. There's a brand new year right around the corner. 'Tis the season, after all, right? To be hopeful. So just a final note before I wrap up this podcast. If you've been listening to this podcast while you're working or maybe driving, and you're someone who really maybe you like to go back and research some of the stuff I've mentioned or check out some links to some of the podcasts or people that I've mentioned, some of my coaches and mentors and different places where I've gone to learn what I've learned and pass it on to you guys. If you want to do that, please feel free to do that, because all of my podcasts are also, I turn into a blog on my writinginyourjammies.com website. And so each podcast has a corresponding blog of the same name. And so basically my show notes link back to my blog, and then you can get any links that you need. And so basically, if you're someone who would like a transcript of what we discuss on each podcast, go back and check out my writinginyourjammies.com. You can also put in blog/podcast. That'll take you directly to my blog page, but you can also just go to writinginyourjammies.com and go to the menu and find the blog and podcast page. But that way, anything that I've talked about that you're interested in or mentioned, or any websites or people that you feel inspired and would like to find out more about, please check those out at that blog. And basically that's because I basically write a blog that I kind of use as pretty much a transcript. It's not word for word, but all the information is there. So if you would like that, please feel free to check that out on writinginyourjammies.com/blog-podcast. Okay? So check that out. And I want to wish each and every one of you the merriest of Christmases and the happiest of whatever holiday you like to celebrate, or holidays, plural. And I hope that 2018, may it be your best year so far. Take care. Have a great day, week, month, and year, both 2017 and 18. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. I appreciate every download and every person who has subscribed. I release new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday, so if you enjoy this content, please consider leaving a review. The more reviews fledgling shows like mine receive, the more visible it becomes on the various podcast stations. Each review helps, so if you enjoy what I've been sharing, please help others find this show by leaving a brief review. Thanks again for listening.